Aloha guys, great to be live here. I am confirming that we are live on my channel. One moment please. Let's see here. It says we're live here, but we are live. Alright, awesome. Okay, so this stream is about live. This stream is about the principled man, somebody who is passionate about marriage and why that is. People might say that, well, why am I trying to be religious or socially, some type of authority, some type of trying to influence the world? Okay, marriage is something designed for children. It's designed to create a stable environment for the future, from children to when they have children and everything. It's not just for the basic things of meeting the child's needs and stuff. It's also about two parents having a setting an example of what love is and how to perpetuate that into the future. And that's why society is destabilizing, because it's not based upon marriage. And then people will say, well, we love each other, why do we have to get married? Or they'll say, well, we're together, forget about marriage. I just want to have, I want to have sex. I want to, not think about marriage. That's what people might say. To that I respond that, number one, sex is marriage. Intimacy, even dating, going out in public together, those are things that are designed to attach someone and to connect them to each other. And it's something that married people do. In the past, only married people would go on dates, for example. And like I was saying, this is not about trying to convince people of, oh, why aren't you getting married? No, this is about, if people are serious about love, and when you love yourself, you don't. Let me get the quote here. When you love yourself enough, you're not going to chase people who don't love you. You're going to only want someone who loves you. And so that vibration of love, right, of self-love extended to someone, right, it's a process. And the idea of marriage is that it's a formality of, you know, you're going to be much more selective if you have to marry someone. So it's not about me trying to say, hey, you should get married. It's about when you decide that, hey, I want to get married, or even if you contemplate it theoretically, you're going to be much more selective. Just like I think, another way to be selective is to know your values. I could easily name off several values. Veganism is a value of mine. Uh, you know, Exercise. You know, and the pursuit of marriage. These are values of mine. So if somebody doesn't have those values, then they would be disqualified. And so I need to look for indications for that, and that's it's assuming that I'm even ready for marriage, which I'm not. But I'll get into that later. This is all about the path of, okay, you're feeling like you're mentally and physically ready, and what's the path forward? What's the path forward to to marriage? And you're financially, emotionally, all that. If you're all ready, right, you're all ready. Now you instead of saying you're single or available, tell people you're looking for a spouse, looking for a husband, looking for a wife. Okay? This language is important because because it's like you're not available for any casual encounter. You're not single, and alone. You're either not, you're either not available, you're not looking, or no, even better. If you tell people, instead of saying you're single, tell them you're preparing for marriage. And then if people ask what's your status now, you say, okay, I'm ready for marriage. I'm looking for a spouse. And this is different than hoping someone's going to like you. It's knowing who you are and saying, this is who my spouse is going to be. You know, they are going to have these qualities. And you don't want to be too specific, like you might want somebody who's like of the religion or culture that you are, whatever that is. And but then maybe if you keep the parameters open to, whatever she might have certain body type or ethnicity, maybe that's not as important to you, but maybe it is. You have to have a list of absolutes that a person must be, and then you should have a list of disqualifiers. These are similar to your own likes and dislikes, what you like, what you dislike. And then, it's easy, for example, I call this the cigarette clause. If you see somebody doing something you don't like, for example, if maybe they look attractive and you listen to them and you're turned off by the way they talk. This is the same as being turned off by if somebody's smoking and you're a non-smoker, so naturally you wouldn't want to be with one. So this is an instant turn off. You need to know these types of things. All right, so that being said about marriage, that marriage is about getting ready for marriage, and it's about the process, what it takes to say, okay, uh, this is somebody I would want to marry. It's that process. It's the process of self refinement that is important. It's not about like, oh, you should get married, and it's a social, expectation or whatnot. It's like being more into loving you, more deeply knowledgeable about yourself. That's what you have to do prior to marriage. You're going to be more selective, much more than just some random person who you might want to have intercourse with. But what's fascinating about that is what I call the prostitute paradox. When a prostitute and their client interact, it involves the exchange of money for somebody's body. This is not a respectful exchange. It's completely transactional and objectifies both people. It says that, oh, you know give me your money and give me your body. It's not loving. It's not It's not something you would do to somebody you really cared about and respected. And just the same, people think, well, we're not married, but we're intimate. Well, guess what? You're prostituting one another's bodies for body, and oftentimes you're sharing resources. So, but it's still it's like lower level. It's not based upon a heart connection. It's not based upon the list I talked about of comparing your values and seeing where you're compatible in that regard. So let's get into it. Two men, two types of men. Now this could apply to women too, two types of women. But okay, there are those who want premarital intimacy and those who don't. And I'm bringing this to a conscious light because some may not know this. Some may sincerely want to be loving, and they may be quote unquote dating, and they may really want to trying to express their care with someone, and like maybe they're not getting married because they respect the person and they don't want to force them to get married or that whole type of thing. And by the way, how do I define marriage? I think for the sake of this video, for in the abstract way, I say that marriage is physical connection. It's intimacy, verbal and physical, and it keeps people bonded together. So marriage, in a way, is the daily activities you do. That's why it's so bad to do dating and sex before marriage, because dating and sex is how you show the world and show each other that you want to be married and attached to each other. And and so let's see if there's anyone in the chat here. That might be fun. Okay, there's nobody watching yet, but that's fine. This is going to be a live stream, and it'll be available for everyone. Okay, so let's see here. Back to the discussion. So, okay, there's men who live by principles, like I was saying, values and whatnot, and they don't randomly give their passion or their money to women they're not married to, like I was saying, no dating or anything. And they're not interested in open relationships, or more than one wife, by definition. Why would you want to share a woman with other men? And for that matter, as a woman, I don't want to make this about the woman is something that you own property. I mean, you own each other. You own each other. Men say that they're players, quote unquote, and they're really polyamorous, and they're unhygienic. They're for wanting to share some women with other men. Yeah, it's and then this idea of that man wants another woman or can't be satisfied by one amazing woman. Women are amazing. Why would you need two? Is not one sufficiently attractive? That's my curiosity. Okay, so the point is when there are men out there that do not follow these philosophies, they're lacking in self-control, and they're gonna basically be controlled by their desires and by women, and women deserve to be allowed to be in the feminine. Women shouldn't have to be, you know, being their own guardian, being their own, you know, like figuring out, who to marry and everything. They should have help with that, because women are more emotional, and it's harder for them to use logic, at least from my understanding. But what I'm saying is it's more natural for women to be emotional, and they should be uplifted so that they can be in that energy, and so starting off, okay, so the principled man, right? What does he do? He uses self-intimacy, masturbation, as an outlet for getting enjoyment out of life, and as a way to control himself. And this is instead of using drugs and alcohol, or behaviors like promiscuity or overspending. That's all unsustainable. Eventually, it leads to destruction. Right? So this daily process of self-intimacy, it manages your desires, and of course it helps you to keep your sex organs strong, you know and 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 so let's see. And then this will allow you to make logical decisions instead of your decisions being governed by your sexual interests. You know, be logical, and then go through a process of preparing for a strong marriage, I call it. And this is the path of the man of principles. The idea of a principled man is simple. It's somebody who who is not controlled by women, who's not controlled by their desires, who doesn't just, if some woman approached him and asked for intimacy, he would say no. I'm preparing for my spouse, and 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 so this is a loving act towards oneself and others. It's makes you more trustworthy as a man, that you're not going to seduce take advantage of other men's sisters or daughters, you know. And so so basically, I don't I want men to have great marriages. This is what I'm saying. To have a great compatible, and I'm not envious of that. I'm not hateful towards men who are experiencing a great quality of life and marriage and have an attractive spouse and are wealthy, what have you. That's fantastic. But what I do not like is men who engage in premarital intimacy, because it's basically half-hearted and unloving, and it's 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 being intimate with other men's potential wives. You know, it's not nice. Basically, it's not socially constructive behavior. It's antisocial. You know, I don't like seeing people unmarried together acting like you're married, because it's self-deceptive and it's lying to other people. Like I said, how do you show you're married? Dating, intimacy, public appearances together. That's why some people try to keep this private and hidden, but even that should be a red flag right away. That, you know. Okay, so here's the thing. This is what women do. Women try to get with a man that they're interested in and try to convince him to get married. But and then men, what they try to do is they try to, you know, once they start getting intimacy, they don't really feel the need to marry unless they're actually good guys. In which case, why are they being intimate before marriage? It's not. It's like saying that, well, you know, I might not want to marry you, or you're a maybe, or maybe there's somebody else out there that I would rather marry, or I'm still figuring myself out, so I'm not sure if I want to marry you, or don't know who you are. So why would you let somebody so close to you if you don't really know them? You know. So part of this is, for the average person, is it's just a lack of knowledge and a resistance to marriage because of its religious associations, and I want people to see the light of what it actually is from a logical perspective, not an emotional perspective of like you should get married, or you're a bad person, or you're going to hell. Um, I want people to see it from the logic of, you know, the strength of it, that it's, you know, you're giving away your energy if you're being not married to, and you're with random women and so on. Like I said, if your goal as a man is to have sexual a woman, if you like, if that's what you're thinking when you see them, uh, that's natural, right? But if that's your goal and before marriage, it means you don't actually care about it. And that's the paradox, the prostitute paradox. We try to have sex with people that we do not care about or don't respect fully. So, considering all this, right? You know, how do you assess somebody's compatibility with you? You know, that's part of it. And where do I want to go with this? Well, let me check to see if there's anyone in the chat here. I guess I'm watching. That's good. And that's part of it. You know, you got to be present with yourself. Even though I only have one person, I'm watching or listening to myself, I am actually watching. I'm listening, and I'm allowing my words to fill my spirit with hope and joy and you know, positivity. This is the reassurances of that love can transcend everything. So, how do we? Okay, so where do I go from there? Well, I can go to preparation for marriage. So, to get ready for marriage, you I have this daily process, including, like I mentioned earlier, self-intimacy. And then I have another action you can take, and it's to send a daily email update or report to your future spouse. And what this does is it gets you in the framework. The email should go something like, "Hey there, it's your future husband or wife," and then your name, and then you say, "I've done these things today. I've been, thinking about you. I'm doing these for you. Whatever you did, your work." And then you can say, "I saved up this amount of money today for us," or all that type of details of actual life and the process it takes, because life is about principles. Okay, life is about building towards something, and when you have that, then you have love. And I think one mistake that society has made is putting too much emphasis on men and women and their relationships and their sex organs, and really it should be about celebrating and putting women at the central focus, that their VV and their womb is to be treated as sacred and protected, and so what this means is it means that it's masculine for for a man to direct his attention towards women, instead of hoping for woman to direct her sexual attention towards him. And it's kind of a universal, the VVS compared to breasts or the PPS, it's kind of similar. It's like a flower, and so this focus, okay, it will allow us to find more peace as a culture. This focus, and it's good energy, and it's a different energy from sexual energy of worshiping the flower, giving oral sex towards your wife. That's different than phys- uh, you know penetrative intercourse, because that's more about the man and dominating the woman, and it's kind of a power energy. But it's not a you know it, we want to make things about the woman, and it's not to say that don't I mean I'm not saying don't have fun, don't you know have great intimacy in all regards. I'm saying at the end of the day, you want to make it about your woman and her flower and her womb, and that she's like, source of life. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the idea of virginity. If men were being honest, they would say that they prefer a virgin woman, but to have that be a reality where men can have a virgin woman, it also requires men to be virgins prior to marriage, so that they are not commingling with each other's spouses, future spouses. And it requires a society that has no premarital intimacy. This is my whole point here of being principled, of of having stronger values that allow you to control your desires, and this will create a more loving society. Now, there are ways to do that, to promote virginity. One is to wear a purity ring, or do follow the action plan. Self-intimacy, wear a purity ring every day. Tell people that you're preparing for marriage. Send a daily email to your future spouse. Uh, avoid. I like to avoid physical contact with the opposite sex, Now, it doesn't mean that I might not glance around and look at women, which basically is a great compliment, but it means that I don't want to physically touch them, and the only conversation I have with them is related to, either a greeting, a formality, and even that I might avoid, or I'm uh, uh, um, work. If I have to work and it involves women, and by the way, like especially stuff that's like, that's why I think at least especially with K through 12 education, it should be men teaching boys and women teaching girls. I think that should all be segregated in that way, and that way there's more of a focus on education and not about sexual tension and social, you know, little social like little games of who likes who and all of that. That's not what we should be using our tax dollars to fund. Like public schools will do that. They'll promote intimacy, the proms and everything, right? So so where do we go from there? Well, let's see. One mistake men make is letting women take the lead. Like they will, say that, oh, if the woman likes me, then that's a good reason to pursue her. That's actually not. Of course, it should be a prerequisite, but not the core. It should be the man knows what his life is, and then he's financially prepared for, a wife, and this is, I'm not saying that women shouldn't work. I'm not saying. All I'm saying is your whole marriage should be the foundation of your marriage should be your shared values, because that'll get you through things. You know, it shouldn't be that you have mutual physical attraction. What if one of you is in a wheelchair? Does that, or get some type of maybe health issues? Does that mean that that the marriage will be affected? It shouldn't. You should want to be with that person more than anything. In fact, that is a that is a technique for wanting to you know select someone. It's part of the selection process. You ask these questions to yourself. Would I, could I see myself on a deserted island with this person? People sometimes get distracted and they think of the potential spouse in terms of, well, what about her, what her life is like, or what would people think of us and how would we look together. No, it should be really about, if you're just alone together for periods of time, which you will be, how would you feel with each other? How do you like the way that you act around this person? Do they help to do they make you feel like you would want to be a husband to them, Yeah. And so, like looking at other things, details of, like, well, what type of person should I pick? If you're a man and you're a certain age and you may want to have children or whatnot, and then you are thinking of choosing a younger woman. Well, one of the issues is one person is going to die prematurely, and then you'll be leaving the person alone. Now, the problem is one way that men capture a woman is by having a child with them, because then they're not like the women are undesirable because they have a child with somebody else, and what man would want to raise them? And yes, of course, in at least in this moment in time, I'm not expecting to you know be able to have a virgin. I'm not expecting that the woman that I marry may have children from a previous you know marriage. That's I'm okay with that, because but it's not the direction I'm going, and that will be a prerequisite to marriage. And this is another thing, you should talk with your potential spouse. And by the way, how do you talk to them? Well, what's the most efficient way? Is it, I've been very anti-dating, so what's the alternative? Well, let's say you're ready for marriage and you are in an area where you frequent, which is where you should be meeting someone because it's the lifestyle you live and the places you go. You probably meet them in that area, or maybe online dating. But I think it's better to meet them in the area, and then if the woman shows interest, which it should be for her to do, there shouldn't be any guessing. That way, it's kind of protects the woman, you know. Um, so you what do? You show interest. The woman shows interest, and the guy can say hello, and he can say, you know, you know, um, he can say, you know, I'm. He can say, I'm looking for a potential spouse. No, he can say, I'm looking for a what? You know, that you're interested. Your goal. You can say one of your goals in life is to get married, and then you can say, check me out on social media. Then give her your name. That way, it's up to her to pursue the process. You know, and you're not asking for her phone number. You're not telling her that I want to look into your social media. You're just saying, hey, look, check me out. Or if you're you know whatever you have, whatever you can show on social media. Everyone should have a profile. The profile should have some details about your likes and dislikes on it, so that way you can already get a lot, and that's way faster than a date, because you're already looking at them and you got a lot, of information there, and then you can quickly disqualify them or not, or she can, you know, and then what? Then instead of a date, you can talk on a phone or on video chat or via email, and you can talk to each other and keep it platonic, keep it scientific. Like, well, what are you interested in? What would you do if, say, you found out your child you were in the womb was had mental health issues? Would you abort them? It's serious stuff like that. Stuff like, what would you want to spend some extra money on? Do you like vacation or not? These are things in life that we need to consider. And then so and a lot of this can be should be revealed on your social media. But then the more personal stuff, and also people say, well, we have to be physically intimate to see if we like each other. But you can talk about revealing things, and such as your physicality, your maybe your financial history, your health history. You can share all these personal details with somebody on the phone in a safe, healthy distance, respectful. And then if it doesn't work out, you tell them, I hope we both learned more about each other, and by this point you should be friends. That's another thing is, if you are getting this close to someone, like even though it's just on the phone, if you're telling somebody your personal, details of your life, they should be already somebody that like you kind of would like a spiritual sister, spiritual brother. They're like somebody who you respect already. Like, for example, if you're both vegan, or you're both of a particular religion or whatever, you need to, okay, I'm talking to you, viewer, you need to know who you are. Okay. By the way, if there's anyone watching, please comment. I'm thinking of doing this as a weekly stream. I think it would be fun. It's just a question of logistics, of a good time to do it. Maybe Sunday, maybe earlier in the day. And then I could have an open discussion about Shield Heart. Shield Heart is about protecting yourself, being mentally and physically stronger, and all of that good stuff. So let's see what else. So I wanted to bring up these kind of related ideas here while we're still talking. The okay, so the idea of age gap marriage, as I had mentioned, basically it's pretty popular. Well, it's not. It's fairly common because typically what happens, men take until they're 35 or so to be financially poised for marriage, and then women they're most virile at the age of like 20 or something. So these are things to consider. I would say it's important to not, you don't want to be with somebody that's noticeably younger than you. In a perfect world, and it already is the case, most people marry each other at their similar age. So maybe 25 would be a good age. But see, part of my frame of reference is I focus so much on developing these concepts and ideas that I'm kind of an exception. Like these are all ideas that can apply, that can be used by future generations, but I myself took all this time, like 10 years, to figure all this stuff out. And so then, you know, now that I'm 32, does that mean, what if I want to have children? Who should I find a 32-year-old? These are all questions to be looking into. Um, and perfect conversation for YouTube Live. Perfect, perfect. And but like I'm saying, it's you know, part of this has to do with in a society where women and men are virgins, what happens? Well, not just gender separation, but the fathers, okay, they protect their daughters, and the daughters don't have to go out that much. And people might see this as being they're imprisoning the daughters, but if I was a woman, I would want the protection of my father and brothers. And also, it's important to consider that as an adult, uh, especially men, it's not useful to label people your father or brothers if you don't have shared values as them. If you don't, and by the way, you shouldn't even be labeling anyone your authority, a role of authority like father, mother, uncle, grandfather. These terms are not useful. Instead, as an adult man, you should label people as a spiritual brother or sister, even if they used to play the role of father. If you want to be equals, you want to be equals, because what happens is if you label people an authority instead of being a more egalitarian, equal role, what happens is there's an unconscious expectation for them to look out for you financially or emotionally, and it's not healthy because you need to be your final authority. You need to know what you want in life. You shouldn't be asking someone for, or they paying for your college or all of that. I don't think that's a good system. I think people, especially men, have to be their own authorities. And 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 people might say, well, oh, you just had bad parents. My legal biological parents did the best they could, and they helped me to get to the point I am now mentally, as being an independent thinker and somebody who questions and is skeptical of the world, and also likes to have fun. Um, okay, so hmm, so where do we go from there? Uh, I'm gonna mention some unrelated stuff so that it's at least on the stream, and then I'm gonna call it a night. But I'm looking forward to future streams. And what do you think I should talk about? Is there something in this realm of relationships and whatnot that you didn't notice me mention. I feel like I discussed a lot here. Uh, so the question is, are you, all these ideas of boyfriend, girlfriend, even the term engaged, I think they're all maybes. Maybe we like each other, maybe somebody else. Maybe we'll get married, maybe not. And they say that cohabitation helps you to get to know a person better. People who cohabit actually get married more at a higher rate, but guess what? They get divorced at a higher rate too. Because, like I said, when you live together, when you are intimate, when you go on dates, when you have a public display of connection, it's as if you're married. And then there's people who, like women who don't want to take the husband's last name, uh, and stuff like that. I really think if it's just your average man and woman heterosexual, the woman should want to be in her feminine, and she should want to take the man's name. It makes the man feel empowered to that that he is responsible for her, and that she loves him, and that she wants to be with him, and allows her to be in her feminine and him in his masculine. So okay, so kind of unrelated topic, but still issues of society. Um, being being loving towards mentally or physically handicapped people. How do we do that? Well, it's wiser, I think, to frame it in how would I want people to treat me. If I was so mentally or physically ill that I could not, and this is like a test, if somebody is self-aware that they can decide whether they want to leave this body or not through humane suicide, then the question is, do they? And I, if I'm not able to make that determination on my own, I would hope people would help me get my soul out of this body and into the next world. That's what I want. And most people are afraid of the next world. They're afraid of the unknown. But here I'm going to conclude this ideas of this show by talking about reincarnation. Now, first of all, people believe in heaven. Heaven, I think, is a boring place. I think it's not real. I don't think it's consistent with what we are, because you can't be happy. You can't experience a heavenly place in a place where there's no uh, suffering, or at least potential for suffering. Even if we have a great, earth with crime being managed and everything, the potential for suffering, the potential for problems, and the preparation for dealing with those problems or bad people, that's what allows us to appreciate and actually enjoy life and find meaning. You find meaning in training every day in self-defense or defense of your country that you live in. That's meaningful, and it's to protect a greater good. And so, but in the instance of people who can't even, it's like they're like people's pets. Like parents, have a child that's handicapped, and they treat them like a pet. I think that is inhumane, and and the same goes for the criminally insane. These are people who have been assessed to have no ability to be reformed. They should be helped to go into their reincarnation too, because they're obviously suffering from either a childhood abuse and all that kind of stuff. So, reincarnation, change the world. Where do people keep coming from? You know, we keep coming. We're here. Whether it's in this earth or the next, we are here. And again, to put emphasis, life is about, human life should be about celebrating women, protecting them, and we can do that if we are can come together as men. See, here's the thing about like the principled man. Here's the thing. Men are competitive, except if they're competing for the same thing. If they have the same values, they're going to become cooperative. So people might think that, oh, it's good to have different religions and everything. Uh, I think it's good to that people homogenize and that they pick up aspects of religions and cultures that are actually functional and work for the sustainable long run. They create healthier people and healthier societies, better minds, better bodies, everything. Uh, and so we need to consider what works. And I don't think there's like multiple things that work. I think there's only one thing that works best. And maybe there's, then it'd be a question of, well, what are the laws? Does it, do you have to eat like a raw vegan diet, which is probably the allows you to live the longest, um, by law? Or, what do we, and this, the whole vegan thing, right? I don't like animals. I don't, even dogs or dolphins or bees. Bees we need because of pollination. Dogs, you could argue, we need for people who need a helper dog, or guard dog. Um, and dogs are friendly, but the thing is dogs are kind of being used as a replacement for people, especially women. They'll do kind of the default biological motions of caring for a dog, but it's not a human, and humans need help right now. We need to have another look at ourselves and what's going to happen with humanity moving forward. So thanks for considering. It's Joshin. Oh, hello, John. Right. Breezy. Yeah, this is let's see. This is great, man. This is my first live stream in a while, and it's more scholastically oriented. It's more technical about a subject I'm looking at, about being principled and the path to marriage and the path to a more sustainable living as a society. It's fun to have fun, and I've had fun on previous live streams. I've played, I've rapped, I've acted crazy, but now, until the point in which I'm able to feel that I've expressed myself. In fact, I'm doing a TED Talk. I'm preparing for it. I'm applying to TED Talks to different locations. I'm writing my script for my speech, and it's going to be about preparing for a strong marriage. Once I kind of get this burden of knowledge off my shoulders, then I think I'll be able to have more fun in life, and be playful, be. So I'm gonna say aloha to you guys, and please, obviously, if you're seeing this and it's done, and you've kind of considered everything I've had to say. What do you have to say? What's your authentic expression for me in response to this, if you'd like to offer it? Okay, so I want to say aloha. Take care.